What is going on, guys? Craig 1287 here, bringing you some Battlefield 3 gameplay. That's just kind of some footage there to go on in the background. It is some pretty fun footage, not gonna lie. You know, going 14-0 with the M5K. Yeah, I die, I get revived once, but still a pretty brutal round for the opposing team where we crush them. With a simply fantastic defense, and you know, M5K always a good weapon for these fast-paced, close-quarters rush rounds. Now, moving on to the actual point, the purpose of this commentary is going to be about one of the panels that went on during PAX Prime 2013, and that was PC Gamer had a panel, and they had some hosts on there that were some fairly well-known individuals in the PC gaming crowd. So those of you that are console gamers, you probably have not heard of these. Even some of you PC guys may not have heard of these guys because they're, you know, they're indie, but they're the kind of indie where they're the big indies. One of these developers, they are the head guy behind the game that was crowdfunded for $17-18 million, whatever it's up to nowadays. And so yeah, the guys that were on the host to host the panel were Dean Hall, Chris Roberts, John Maver, and Chris Taylor. And really great panel. You know, even if you're not a PC gamer, it's a 53-minute long panel. So I mean, this is something that you might want to listen to, like while driving in your car. Don't obviously watch it, but listen to it. And it's just. You know, it's one of those things where it's just nice to hear very intelligent people in a setting where there's, you know, none of these guys are not working currently for any of the big publishers like Sony, Microsoft, EA, Activision, Ubisoft. They're not currently employed by these guys, so they don't have to censor themselves as to what they say. They don't have to worry about offending anybody. They can just be very honest, very brutal, and talk about, you know, some of the previous people that they have worked under, and you know, some of the current happenings that are going on in the gaming world in general, just with also a focus on PC. And so some of the topics that they talk about. One of the things that they touch on is what's the next big thing in PC gaming. And the obvious thing, I mean, it's one of my most anticipated things in gaming in general, which is the Oculus Rift. And they talk about that and bring it up throughout the panel, in all those rightful areas that it deserves to be brought up in. And that's very interesting. I'm glad to see them talking good things about it. A lot of these guys have shown a lot of support for it. Let's see, one of the other things that they talk about is kind of the future of PC gaming, and it's called PC gaming. Of course, you can have it on Windows, which is where it's primarily being seen, but you can have it on Linux, you can have it on Mac, and things like that with OpenGL. But typically everything is DirectX, DX, and things like that, which is why we still call it PC gaming, but it's primarily Windows gaming. And they talk about the whole. It's actually interesting how they talk about this. A lot of these guys, they've released their titles on the Mac platform, and I thought that they would typically be real strong with Linux and Ubuntu, but a lot of these guys actually didn't really favor it, showing that it showed potential back in the day, but nowadays that potential was never really capitalized on. So that was a very interesting discussion. A lot of this is just a lot of smirky, awesome humor. A few quirks taken at certain developers and things like that. It was just very funny. If you're a nerd, you'll get a lot more out of this than if you're really out of the loop. But you guys are watching YouTube videos, and subscribe to me, so I take it some of you guys are more in the loop than most people. Of course, you can't have a discussion about PC without a discussion on piracy, and they had some very, very interesting ideas about piracy, talking about how cloud, not necessarily cloud, but a lot of like MMOs and things like that, how that's really the only way to combat piracy is how you have to be constantly connected to a server. But you don't want that in single-player games, something like SimCity. Granted, that's multiplayer, but you know, a lot of people hated the way they handled that, so that was pretty interesting. They also talk about aggressive game sales. This is very interesting. You know, Steam does a lot of fantastic sales, but they get a lot of flack for being maybe too aggressive, for having things be too cheap. Does it provide a bad image for PC games being considered cheap? And, you know, and then there's, you know, the segment for audience questions and things like that. There's just a whole lot of great things that was covered in this. So if you guys get a chance, you know, watch it in bits and pieces. It's 53 minutes, but it's very, very, very entertaining for the true nerd in you. Check it out, especially you PC guys. But, you know, console guys, you'll enjoy it, I think, anyways. You might get offended by some of the things that they say, but it's very entertaining. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Have a good one. Ta-ta.